back to Interjections. This is episode 108. Before you all rush to turn off this episode upon hearing my voice, let me reassure you that Andrew is here. We're just doing things a little bit differently today because I somehow completely got the day of this game wrong and missed it. So instead, I will be interviewing the guys on this most heinous of events and get their thoughts on the events that have just transpired. So before we do so, introductions are in order. Mikko, how are you, sir?
Thank you. I'm, relatively fine, but still mildly pissed. Not as much as most of Interisti in the internet, apparently. But I guess I can cope. And let's see. Let's see what the discussions with the boys will kind of bring us to the table.
Andrew?
Jay, I'm still annoyed. This is classic Inter stuff. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to be here. I give us credit though, because I will say, well, last week we all predicted we would lose to Juventus. We did something amazing in which we conjured up a way to lose that even I could not dream up. So credit to Inter.
Kudos, even. Irfan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you called them our daddies in the last episode, and I think that's exactly right. I'm kind of in between probably Andrew and Mikko in my level of annoyance, but it is definitely shocking to think that we let go of this game after fighting back and taking the lead. So, not all losses are created equal, and not every loss feels the same, but this felt pretty shitty. There's no way around it, really.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that because that's exactly where I wanted to start. Now, as mentioned, I did not watch the game. I have watched the short highlight videos and the goals. I've seen the match report card and that kind of thing. And I've seen a handful of reactions from around the place, but I have not watched the game. So as someone who has only seen isolated incidents, what I do see is for the second week in a row, or rather the second game in a row, Inter from a leading position has thrown away the victory and has capitulated to not even losing the lead and falling to a draw, but surrendering the lead entirely and resulting in a loss. So, having said that, the last two goals, Juve's third and fourth goal, one came from a set piece, one came from a long shot. So, Irfan, my question to you is this. Were those last two goals, I don't want to say flukes, were they isolated incidents, or were they the result of Inter somehow capitulating while leading 3-2?
I think capitulating. It's funny because I would love to hear eventually what Andrew and Mikko thought and what other fans thought, but once we went up 3-2, I did not think in my head that, oh man, we're going to win. Even though there was 13 minutes left in the game. At that point, I almost immediately was like, I don't know what's going to happen in this match, and I'm really worried that we're going to give up some goal. Now, what I didn't anticipate was that we would give up 2 goals. And to your question, it's funny because I think in the second half, in the beginning of it, Inter were dominating pretty well, but Juventus was still sticking around and giving us problems. And I think what was really funny was there were so many just individual matchups that our players were losing on the pitch, just nonstop. And it wasn't because our players don't have the quality, but it just didn't seem like the players were focused enough to do the things that they needed to do. It definitely seemed in some ways like a lack of intensity. And I think part of that you saw in Thuram's reaction when he scored, and then also the way he reacted after his brother scored and all that sort of stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into. But it's just, even after we went up, I wasn't confident. And the goals that Juventus scored, yes, they were both. Well, the last goal was like a kind of wonder strike where I would really question whether someone like that can make another shot like that and score another goal like that. And you can argue that Summer should have done better. But both of those plays were because different elements of the Inter squad sort of switched off. The free kick goal that Thuram scored was a result of a cheap giveaway by DeMarco and then a bad foul in a bad spot by Bastoni, just giving them a lifeline for no reason. And then I forgot who it was. I think it was a Kanji or somebody else who like just completely failed to adequately mark Thuram. So lots of individual mistakes. And like if people keep making individual mistakes, then it sort of becomes a systemic mistake. And so I don't know. It was very disappointing, but it was almost predictable. But our inability to salvage a draw is what's the bigger issue in my opinion. Because look, people are going to score wonder goals, and like things are like that are going to happen. But for 2 weeks in a row now, we've been unable to at least pull out a draw, even if we weren't going to win. And losing those 3 points versus losing those 2 points can often make the difference between a league title and a position in the table. And we seem to be incapable of figuring that out.
Now, you mentioned that Summer could have done better on that goal. I'm going to ask Mikko here. To what degree is Summer at fault for this result, and not only the fourth goal from Juventus, but the second goal from Yildiz?
Yeah, I didn't like Summer on either of those goals. I don't know about the set piece goal. I wouldn't mainly blame him for that, but the long range shots, they were great shots for sure, but I feel that if we can't trust the goalie to take those shots, we can't play. We would need to kind of organize our defending so differently. We would need to kind of spend so much energy to kind of block a wide area on the pitch so that we would defend against those shots. That last shot, that was like 30 meters away. Yildiz was a bit closer, but even that was like 25 meters probably. And I just can't accept that we concede such shots, that they weren't like top corner shots. Sommer can reach those shots if he kind of jumps early enough, but I don't know whether some kind of players masking his view or whatever, but you just gotta take those. You can't allow those type of shots in a kind of match like this. I think, like, to me, I partly understand, Irfan, your point about the capitulation in the last 10 minutes, but I think that especially the winning goal, that was like a wonder strike, and Sommer, he doesn't do his job there. I don't think there was anything our players or the coach or anyone could have kind of do differently there. And it stings a lot to lose like this. That's kind of the main point here, which is the most irritating part, that okay, we could have done things differently, better. Definitely those set piece goals we conceded, or kind of the first goal was kind of a scrambled play after the set piece, but you can't concede 2 long range shots like that in a game. Like, it's hard to win a match if you do that.
Fair. Let me throw it over to Andrew here. I want to hear about, from a tactical perspective, Tudor versus Kivu. Two, overwhelmingly mediocre names in the history of this notorious and famous fixture. Arguably two of the least qualified names that have ever faced each other in this game. Give me the breakdown here. What were the tactical battles that happened that you noticed? You mentioned, or rather, Irfan mentioned that we were losing a lot of individual battles. That sounds like both a mixture of qualitative differences, but also tactical matchups. Did you feel that Tudor was getting the better of Kivu? And I ask this because the stats actually favor Inter in everything. Inter had more shots, greater possession, more passes, higher passing accuracy, more fouls, yes, but also more corners. So the stats tell a different story, but tell me what it looked like on the pitch, tactically speaking.
Neither manager had a good game, as far as I'm concerned. Tudor and Juve must have watched the Udinese film, drooling at the idea of a low block and watching us struggle to getting crosses against these bigger defenders, because basically from the onset, Juve were not interested in playing. They were sitting deep. They were not pressing. Vlahovic was on an island, and they were just daring us to come and break them down. And as we've seen time and time again with this collection of players, we couldn't. So then Juve scored this goal out of nowhere from Yildiz on a wonder strike, which Summer should have saved. And they just double down and they keep an even lower block, and suddenly we're parked in the Juve ends. And honestly, it was an extremely underwhelming performance by Juve. Their XG from this match was 0.6, which perfectly reflects how little they contributed to attack. The only time they took some sort of emphasis in this game was when we took the 3-2 lead. And that's when Tudor made a few attacking substitutions. And that's when he really, pedaled to the metal, took a shot at this. It was a completely underwhelming game plan. I will say, if you watch the Udinese game and if you watched us at all in the Club World Cup, you kind of know what the deal is, which is I can tell you which Inter player is going to pass the ball to whom the moment they receive it. Everything's predictable. We know how everything's going to unfold. And the problem when you're playing these low block teams is that if you aren't beating your guy one-on-one, if you aren't getting past somebody, then you need to pull a rabbit out of your hat. And I give full credit to Hakan, who has been written off as a finished player, who's been written off by Inter fans as being toast, because he went out there and he pulled two rabbits out of his hat for us. It should have been enough. On a different day, it would have been enough. But we somehow managed to concede 4 goals away to Juventus again for the second consecutive season. So I don't have a ton of criticism for Kivu for this match. There's really there were 3 mistakes Kivu made, in my opinion. The first was the Sucic substitution. He is a fine player. I don't really know what you were expecting from him unless Hakan was just spent when you made that substitution. And this just speaks to why I wish we had a defensive midfielder on the bench. Because let's be real, bringing in Sucic to the match isn't going to help calm things down. That's not the guy who's going to help, keep Juve at bay. The most puzzling substitution, though, was his decision to leave Thuram on the pitch when Thuram was walking around. He had clearly been spent. He'd worked his butt off all game. He had nothing left to give. And rather than put Peel on and try and win some long balls up top, rather than put Peel on to try and be a threat on the counter with Bonnie, he instead elected to put on Darmian. And you've got to note that Darmian was warming up when the game was tied at 2-2 before we took the 3-2 lead. So he was coming on for Dumfries regardless of what happened. And this is just your classic Italian trained manager substitution, where you're going ahead and you're going for the safe option in a tough spot, in a big spot. And we all know Darmian is a complete waste of space at wingback. We all know he doesn't give us defensive solidarity. We conceded 2 goals once he came on the pitch. But this is just a typical, scared Italian manager move. So I don't think Kivu did anything wrong tactically yesterday. There are still way more crosses than I'd like to see. But the crosses are a symptom of we just don't have the players to beat your man. So did he outmanage Tudor? I can't say yes. He lost the match, but he wasn't He wasn't a problem. I will say this: he made a triple change to put Zielinski on as well. And when you have the triple change, put a lot of attacking players on the pitch. So to Irfan's point, yeah, when we went up 3-2, I was nervous. I was looking at the team structure and I said, okay, well, we can't put on Augusto for DeMarco now. We can't. We don't have a defensive midfielder put off the bench. I am concerned about if this team is forced to defend for the next 12 minutes, is it going to hold out? And ultimately didn't. On that note, I want to give Kivu credit, though, because he did start Augusto over DeMarco, and Augusto was incredible in this game. He had one ridiculous defensive run where Juve were on the counter. Kalulu had made a run from his right wing back position across the face of the goal, and Augusto tracked him all the way, slid, blocked the shot. It was an incredible play, and he had a great game overall. So I'm glad he started over DeMarco, and we should do that more in big spots.
I'm glad you finished with some. Oh, Mikko, you go.
Yeah, about the tactical side, I think that I agree with you, Andrew, that Tudor didn't do a good job, but in a sense, he won the match, so who's gonna complain? But it stings, like I said, it stings a lot, this result, especially because we dominated this match so much. We like, Juve played like a, as they say in Italy, they played like a provincial side. They played like a total small side, small minor club against the excuse me, against the big one. They just parked the bus to their penalty box all game long, almost all game long, like 80 minutes, 75 minutes of the match. And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen too often. I don't remember, like in 25 years, but I followed Inter, that we would go to Torino and we would dominate like that, and put Juve in a real trouble, so that they can't do anything. And even during Allegri's second time at Juve, when they were like playing really kind of nihilistic football, we didn't put them in such troubles even then. So that's why this result is so kind of infuriating, and it's irritating to see that we didn't get anything out of this performance. Although the XG numbers weren't great for us, but we kind of put enough pressure to them that we eventually got the goals. There were only one kind of a, would I say, kind of open play goal in terms of the Hakan's first goal. That the rest were kind of, the one was the set piece, the Thuram's leading or the winning goal at the time, and then the second equalizer was it was like a scramble play from a set piece or something as well, if I remember. So it was, in that sense, it wasn't like a total domination, but in terms of who was controlling the game and who were kind of leading the game and kind of saying what's going to happen next, I think we were like totally superior there. Juve's best kind of strength, I feel, with that squad is kind of the fast counters with Yildiz and such players. And I don't think we conceded maybe one or two counters, and we handled them pretty well. There were no issues with the counters. We were able to kind of counter press them when we lost the ball on their end. We were able to counter press, or then just kind of fix their position in a way that they couldn't do those counters that effectively. And that's why I kind of give credit to Kivu that he was able to find this way to neutralize them. But then I'm going to say that these goals we conceded, they were more like a result of these, well, wonder strikes and scrambled plays, as I mentioned, that they don't really reflect the strength of Juve, but more like a random occasions on the match, and our goalie not doing his job. As for the subs, if I can continue still, I kind of agree that maybe the Sucic sub, or I don't remember where you even criticizing the Sucic sub, but I'm not sure if he was the right guy there. Though I don't know, did we even have any more midfielders there who could have come in? Maybe Fratesi, but he hasn't played a lot. But I'm not. I wasn't like unhappy with the Darmian sub. I feel that Kivu wanted to make sure that Yildiz doesn't have access to our box there on his side on the left, and Dumfries was probably kind of tired playing. I don't know, was he playing like double 90 minutes on the national break, and Hakan was tired as well. So I kind of understood the subs in that sense. But yeah, maybe Pio coming in is for Thuram could have made a difference there. We never know, but yeah.
Let me pivot. Let me shift the conversation here to players here. I want to get an idea from you guys. Let's go with Irfan. Give me, you know what? Each give me, starting with Irfan, your best and worst players from this match. Irfan.
Best player. It's really hard to say. I think Hakan was definitely the best player in terms of, scoring the 2 goals and keeping us in the match. But I thought that
or even just a player that, because maybe if you'll pick the best player, it might be a bit boring. Yeah. So maybe just like, even if it's not the best player, just the player you want to highlight for whatever reason.
Yeah. I thought once again, the midfield seemed to be okay. I thought Thuram played really well. I know Mikko or Andrew was also mentioning this, that he was kind of all over the pitch, and he played a very important role in kind of preventing Juventus from really committing to the attack, because they always had to kind of worry about him and where he was. So I think Thuram did a really good job, put in a lot of hard work. And Hakan is obviously the standout player because he scored the 2 goals. So I think Thuram is someone I'd want to highlight. I think he does a lot of stuff that sometimes goes unnoticed. And he just kind of he forces the opposing team's defense to like just stay very honest, because he's just like a pest, right? Like he finds himself in like good positions. He can kind of bully and push people off the ball. He can do some really good hold up play. He interplays really well with other players, and I think he just does a really good job of kind of being a constant nuisance for the defense. So I think that was good. And then he got his goal too. So props to him for that. In terms of like player that I thought was kind of disappointing, to be honest, I felt like Lautaro was pretty disappointing. I didn't really see him on the pitch much at all. He was ineffective when he was there. I don't think he did much of anything. He just, again, like consistently keeps getting knocked off the ball at times, and he has like no pace, and it's very clear at times that he doesn't have pace. I don't know. I'm increasingly getting frustrated to figure out any way that he really excels on the pitch. Like, he's a great all-around player. He's a team captain. I'm not knocking him for all that stuff, but every time we have matches like this, or, sometimes big matches outside of like his Champions League run, which I give him credit for, but whenever we have matches like this and we need somebody to like pull something out of nothing, like I have such little faith in that person being Lautaro. Like, I have more faith in Thuram doing it. Even Barella sometimes. Bastoni could do something incredible. Thuram will do it. I have very little faith that in a game like this, Lautaro was going to do anything. And sure enough, he didn't do anything. He seemed completely ineffectual to me. So again, maybe it was coming back from the international break, but I felt like he was a little disappointing in this match.
All right. Mikko, give me your best or a player that you want to give a shout out to, and the opposite, a player that you want to condemn.
Yeah, well, Irfan said the two names, Thuram and Hakan. Although Hakan was he wasn't perfect on the defensive side, but I think he played a good match, and obviously 2 goals. Kind of you can't blame the guy too much, as he kept us on the game twice. And Thuram, well, Irfan explained pretty much what I was about to say as well. I wanna highlight. Well, okay, the worst player to me was Sommer because of the result, because of those shots. You just can't do that. But that was already mentioned. I want to mention Akanji. On one hand, I feel that he fit in really well. He was mostly positioning himself correctly and defending okay, doing these aggressive kind of interceptions, good headers there. But then there were those 2 goals where he was kind of involved, or were the closest guy from Inter who were there looking at when the ball was going in at the first goal, when Lloyd Kelly was all alone on the kind of penalty spot. That maybe that was like a collective mistake from the team. Like how's that possible? But then the equalizer 3-3 goal from the set piece, when he was trying to fight there with Thuram, but he was he was on the wrong side there, trying to defend from behind Thuram, and obviously that wasn't working. So it was a bit of a kind of mixed performance by Akanji, but I feel he's gonna be a good player for us. I think we won't be kind of disappointed in him when we go forward from here.
Andrew?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess, like I said, Augusto was my stand-up performer. Akanji was fine. People were raving about Akanji online because he was roaming forward with the ball a bit better than Pavard did. I mean, he's clearly more comfortable on the ball than Pavard, but he wasn't anything great defensively. He started man-marking Yildiz in the second half, which made things better until it didn't. Yildiz, of course, involved in the final goal, the build-up to the final goal. I don't know, man. I'm struggling to find reasons for optimism, for praise after that performance. Obviously, Summer is in my bad camp. 4 shots on goal, 4 goals allowed. That's a problem. Lautaro was going to be my pick before Irfan mentioned him. He was absolutely abysmal, as he typically is coming back from international break. No surprise there. I'll use this as an opportunity to complain about Zielinski one more time. We put him on as part of our first triple sub. And I've been complaining about this guy since the moment we were linked to him. He is not what he used to be. We keep waiting for him to have a good game, to turn a corner. It's not coming, guys. This is a sunk cost at this point. He's never going to be that player. He is just a passenger in these games. He's honestly Frattesi without the goals. I don't know what we're expecting from Zielinski in this setup. I'm just frustrated, and I realize I'm completely going off the point right now, but I'm just frustrated when you look at all these midfield options. We have so many of them, and none of them are what we need. We brought in Zielinski and Sucic off the bench yesterday. We had Diouf, we have Frattesi on the bench. I assume Frattesi's healthy by now. And it's like we don't need these 4 bench midfielders who offer close to nothing. We need 1 or 2 good bench midfielders, and we just don't have them. And that's why this Mercato was so disappointing, because instead of bringing in a good midfield off the bench to help change the game yesterday, we just brought in bodies who weren't able to get the job done. So I was actually quite disappointed with the midfield yesterday. I think a lot of our problems stemmed from the midfield. Barella did not have a great game. Khan obviously had 2 incredible goals. Outside of those goals, I don't think he was anything special, but this was his best game in quite some time, so I'll give him a pass. And Mkhitaryan just is what he is at this point.
That's ironic because I was actually going to ask whether there were any positives to take away from this game.
I have none. Thank you.
Well, if I could just jump in for a second, I will say this. I think Andrew made a good point here, and I think Mikko was alluding to it too. I really don't think you could put this loss on Kivu necessarily. I think if there's one thing that we can kind of take away from this is that I don't think Kivu is like necessarily like the issue with the club. There's a lot of issues going on, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing that you can't point to Kivu as the person that's at fault here. But the team construct is very concerning to me. I don't think that we're particularly good in defense. I think we're going to continue to lose a lot of individual battles in defense. And the midfield substitution point was an excellent point because I don't know. You guys tell me if we have a lead late in a game, like what substitutions are you making to hold that lead? I can't think of any sort of substitutions that we would make that would make our team more solid defensively, and not just the back line, the back three, but even when you go to the wing back position, when you go to the midfield, I just don't see anything that seems like a defensive or an upgrade to solidify the backbone of the team to prevent the other team from scoring. I don't see those moves. Like the most obvious one is Augusto coming in for DeMarco, and like we said, that change was already made to start the match. Other than that, I don't see anyone on the pitch that can come in, and anyone on the bench that can come into the pitch and just shut down this team. So unfortunately, we had this issue, I think last year a lot. And I feel like we're going to have this issue again this year, which is we're going to end up conceding a lot of late goals and we're going to drop a lot of late points. And I think part of that, and a big part of that, is we just don't have the personnel, I think, necessary to like shut games down. And that's a massive concern.
And that's why I'm so frustrated, because there was a moment yesterday where you thought this might be different. When you go up 3-2, we were down twice in this game, 1-0, 2-1. Both times we fight back, both times we go level. And frankly, like I said pre-match, I would have been content with a draw. If we would have gotten out of here with a point, all would have been forgiven. And you start thinking when we go up 3-2 that maybe things are going to be different this year. Maybe we're not going to become this team that blows leads like it's going out of style. And then we just fall back into our old ways and we blow another lead. And remember 2 weeks ago when we played Udinese, we were up 1-0, lost 2-1. It's a continual problem. And to Irfan's point, it's either one of two things. It's either a player problem or a team structural problem. Player problem meaning mentality. So, Mikko, tell me, do we keep blowing leads because of the players, or do we keep blowing leads because of the mentality?
Yeah, I kind of see the point that because we had the same problem last season, so it kind of keeps going and going. But I just don't want to use this match as an example. Maybe how we considered the set piece goal to make it 3-3. Maybe that's kind of the symptom of this issue we have. Like we just can't concentrate for some reason. But that winning goal, like it's not a lack of focus or anything. Maybe for an individual player there, but the goalie. But I think we can't have that as part of the analysis of the performance that we keep conceding. Maybe in a big picture, okay. Maybe in a big picture, we keep conceding for like in a various ways, like whatever ways possible, we keep conceding. Maybe that I can agree, but I would still wait a bit. Can we kind of fix this? I ask Kivu fix this in a sense that we would be able to play those last 15 minutes more calmly and like more composed without having to fear that okay, we're gonna concede again. But I wanna quickly touch on the positives of this match is that I found it refreshing how Kivu, was it a triple sub or double sub at around 1 hour mark, when he took off Lautaro, who, yes, didn't have a good game at all, like usually after the national team break, and also Barella. So he took off a captain and a vice captain at the same time. And I think usually, well, Inzaghi didn't do that often. He didn't took off Lautaro that often, really. And I think Barella usually went off at like 80th minute or something. And now he just wanted to change it, change the whole thing, and they weren't like protesting, they weren't like raging there. They were like shaking his hand and everything. I feel that's kind of a positive sign to me, that maybe he kind of has the team, has the locker room, and he can do these kind of subs, and no one's kind of losing their minds. So that's maybe my positive out of this match. In addition to the fact that we really kind of dominated Juve on their home turf. But yeah.
Yeah, two quick things I just want to touch on. I think another positive is also Hakan's performance. Like Andrew mentioned, I think most Inter fans have kind of written him off as, mentally not there and completely washed. And I think he kind of reminded everybody a little bit about, how good he can be and how different of a player he can be because of his ability to kind of score from outside the box. I think that really helped kind of rehabilitate him in some Inter fans' eyes, which was great to see. But the other thing I'll say is that now that means we have had one win in 13 trips to Juventus, one win out of 13. And mind you, these are not the years where Juventus was some juggernaut that no one could beat. These are years where Inter has been demonstrably the better team, the better squad, and a higher position in the table most times than Juventus. And yet we have beaten them once in 13 trips to Turin. So that's just absolutely ridiculous. The one question I did have for you guys was, what did you make of the whole Thuram brothers sort of chatter scandal? Like, you think it was a bunch of nothing, or do you think it was something, or you don't know what it was? Like, so just to kind of recap really quick, Thuram scored for us, our Thuram, and he didn't celebrate like at all. And initially I thought maybe he was just tired, or maybe he just didn't want to do it because his dad was in the stand, his brother was on the pitch. I couldn't really make sense of it. He didn't celebrate at all, which is very weird because it was essentially the game leading goal at the time. And then later on, his brother Kefren scored for Juventus and celebrated like a madman. And then they had this little exchange, like where they were talking, and Thuram seemed to almost be laughing that his brother had scored. And then they exchanged some words by like covering their mouth and with their jerseys so nobody could see. And I don't know, it just seemed a little weird. So is it a nothing burger, or was there something to it? Can you explain it in any way?
Kivu at least wanted to downplay that, of course, because he doesn't want to have these kind of, I don't know, issues, crisis, or anything. To be honest, it was at least, if it's nothing, it's still a bad look. I think it doesn't look good how Thuram acts there in those both occasions, because I read some comments. I don't know if I understood it. That was it Kefren who commented, or was it Marcus himself who commented after the match that it was something out of respect to his father and his former team or some shit like that, because and was it brother involved somehow? Like, I don't get it. Like, is it kind of these modern times when it's more about you than about the team you represent, because that's I'm getting pissed at that shit, since you are, after all, you are representing Inter there, so it kind of looks like if you doesn't even care like what your how your team is doing. That's kind of the optics
Yeah, so
I'm
it
getting.
looks like it's about you and your brother and your dad and all that shit more
Yeah,
than it is about
yeah,
Inter.
yeah, and especially the second occasion that actually happened after Juve had scored their winning goal when there was the VAR check. So that looked like extra strange, that how you can laugh at this moment when your team just conceded a 4-3 goal at like 91st minute. Like it's just a bad optics, even if it's nothing. But I don't know. Do you have, Andrew, any opinions of that?
I was more upset about this yesterday than I was today. At the time, you're fuming because Thuram is supposed to be one of us. He's supposed to care as much as we care. But as I sit here cynically and just as I slept on it, this is just who Thuram is, man. He's always been this kind of casual, cavalier attitude towards things. I give him credit because like he works so hard on the pitch. Like he clearly gave everything yesterday. I'm not worried about him not trying his best. Or I think back to those Barcelona legs where he played the full 120 and he was our lifeline during those fixtures. But this is who he is. He doesn't take this game that seriously. He's always joking. He's always having a good time. And I think he knows in the back of his mind he's not going to be here next year. I think the writing's on the wall that we're not going to be renewing his contract at higher wages, and that Oak Tree don't want to re-sign a 29-year-old, 28-year-old and give him a bloated contract. So it's a lot easier to, show respect to your father and brother when you know that in your back of your mind. But it's that the entire thing's just weird, man. Like, I get it. You're playing your brother, you're playing your father's team. Let's not celebrate in what is truly one of our two biggest fixtures of the season. It just doesn't come across right. If you are a true Interisti, a true Inter fan, just think about how DeMarco celebrates that goal versus how Thuram celebrates that goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm not mad at
Thuram-
him for it. It's like, it is what it is.
Thuram to Juventus,
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
free transfer to Juventus next season.
free, not free. But yeah, I'm just gonna say that I can understand if he acts like that, if he plays like that, because I think he was really good yesterday. So I'm fine with like act however you want if you
Right.
keep performing.
He is our only forward in form.
Basically.
So he can do what he wants, unfortunately.
Okay, let me pose this question here. This is like an open question, so anyone can grab at it. But we're now 3 games into the season, having lost 2. Given the fact that it's only 3 games into the season, it's obviously still pretty early, far too early for this to be like a season-ending result or anything like that. But at the same time, I mean, is it even worth mentioning like the Scudetto winning teams and things like this? Because those teams have like 4 losses, 2 losses, 5 losses for the entirety of the season, and we've already used up the 2. But it's not like we're going to win this Scudetto anyway, right? I don't think anyone's expecting that. So, what's next? What does this mean for the team currently? What does this mean for the season ahead?
We're in a very dangerous spot here. I think most rational Inter fans have accepted the Scudetto dream is probably dead when you are already 6 points back of Napoli and Juve, who both are undefeated to start the campaign. And our defense has conceded, 6 goals through 3 games. I think most fans can acknowledge the Scudetto is going to be an uphill climb, especially with a rookie manager. We're going to have to turn a major corner and go on a legendary, you win 10 out of 11 match tear to really win a Scudetto. So you put those expectations aside. I'm nervous. Like, this is a critical point of the season. We're kicking off the Champions League campaign midweek. We are facing a couple of like smaller sides in our next few Serie A matches in what have been historically tricky matchups for us. When you look at playing Sassuolo, I think we have Cremonese and then away to Cagliari, which is never an easy fixture. Like this is a tricky spot. So for me, this is all about, is Kivu the guy? And if Kivu rights the ship, we win these next 3 Serie A matches that we're supposed to win, then the season's back on track. Our goals are still in front of us, and we can all just take a deep breath. But if we're talking in 2 weeks that we just dropped points to Sassuolo or we just dropped points to Cagliari, then we're going to be in trouble, man.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of delicate moment. I'm kind of not that worried given the performance we put there, but then at the same time, if the opponents can learn, or of course they learn, they study how we play, and we seem to play the same way as we did last year as well. There can be troubles. I think Kivu needs to find a way to us to have like a little spark in our offensive game, because I can see opponents playing like Juve did. They just like park the bus and hope for the best, and maybe that is the best option against this team. But then again, opponents aren't as good at defending as Juve, so I'm kind of, I have mixed feelings, but of course I'm hopeful as always. So and I'm glad that the next game is coming pretty fast, which is not an easy one. The Ajax away match, which is a bit fortunate in a sense that the schedule is in the Champions League is such that we basically need to win our 4 first matches to have a chance for the top 8 there. But you discussed the schedule already in the previous episode. But what about you, Irfan?
Yeah, it's funny. I think the current state of this club, the current state of Inter, is like we're that sort of, middle-aged woman in the neighborhood that's divorced and who had her glory days. She was really hot back in the day, and now she's just kind of in the neighborhood, willing to be every young 18 or 19-year-old's first time, because that's what we seem to be doing. Not a single player on the opposing team.
What the fuck you're talking about? It sounds like a great high school coming of age movie. Right?
Yeah, well, that's what we did for Aslani a couple of years ago. That's what we just did for Adzic. Didn't we do that for a young Maldini?
Yeah. Inter is merely a platform for every young and up and coming star. It's Ansu Fati,
exactly.
It's Lamine Yamal, it's
Desiree
Doué,
yes,
it's Kenan Yildiz, and now it's this Vasily Adzic prick.
Exactly. We'll find, as long as the opposing team doesn't have some young, hungry 17 to 19-year-old midfielder who's trying to score his first, looks like we have a good chance. Otherwise, leave it to us to make stars out of totally, average players, by giving them some crazy moment of glory. That's kind of like what we're at now. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for this club. I think it's very clear that the Scudetto is not going to happen. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of those seasons where it ends up, do we hit a good run and we end up kind of sneaking into like 3rd or 4th place, or are we going to be like one of those disastrous, like, mid-season mid-table sort of seasons? Because it could go that way. I mean, there's no reason to think it won't. I mean, the other thing I'll say is, if you look at this last match, there's so many players that we've supposedly added to strengthen the squad, none of which actually made it onto the pitch. I mean, Bonnie came in, and if anything, you can say that he was kind of, at fault for that last Juventus goal. We went down really soft.
Come on.
The ref should have given a foul. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And when he did come on, he was fine, but not game changing in any sense. And then who else? Enrique didn't come on. Diop didn't come on. Who else did we use that we had signed recently? So it's just one of those things where you went through this entire summer transfer window to strengthen the squad, and yet you don't want to use really any of those players, at least not in any real situation. Sucic came on, and I think he was a total non-factor. If anything, it was probably one of the worst substitutions we made in that last match. So yeah, the club is just they're not in a great state. I don't think structurally the club is in a good place, and we're gonna really have to see what Kivu can do. I do have more faith in Kivu than I did before, so I guess that's the one positive. But we'll have to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I can't emphasize this enough, guys. Like, the safety net of Inzaghi was a massive factor during his time here. Inzaghi very quickly established himself as, in my opinion, an elite coach, albeit one with many flaws. We've already discussed this to death, but in his own way, a miracle worker in terms of what he was able to achieve, the sheer quality and effectiveness of the entertaining football that he was able to create using a bunch of misfits and 36-year-olds was nothing short of miraculous. The fact that he choked at the final stage several times was, yes, one of his flaws, but it doesn't take away a lot of the good work he did. So under Inzaghi, our biggest gripes were like, oh shit, we're not going to win the Scudetto. And that was a big pain point. That was something we argued over, something that caused us great annoyance. That standard is now gone. It goes when you replace that level of manager with like the rank amateur that Kivu is. And I'm not even saying that to denigrate the guy. I'm not saying that to criticize him. That is an objective fact. He has managed less than half a season of professional football in his life, or at most half a season. Like, unless this is the new Guardiola or something, what do you expect from this guy? You know what I mean? And it's not even like that experience came at a big team. It was at Parma. I think he was in the youth team for a few seasons before going to Parma for half a season. So it's just like a fallacy for this guy to be anything other than like a talent, but a unproven gem or diamond in the rough at best. Worst case scenario, he's just a inexperienced bomb. But in any instance, the floor could really fall out of this thing. I know Andres mentioned this before, using those terms, and I like that definition because it really is the perfect analogy. Like, we have fallen under Inzaghi, we have lost under Inzaghi, we have had disappointments under Inzaghi, but there's always like a certain safety net of like, still we're in the title race, we're still playing good football, there's no question we're finishing top four. And, even though we've drawn 3 games in a row and lost to Sassuolo again, or whatever it is, we're still winning 5 out of 6 Champions League games or whatever. There was that safety net, that minimum standard, which is now, like I said, it's gone. So this could be really bad. This could be a Stramaccioni type season. This could be like a, what was that season? Like a Frank de Boer type season. Frank de Boer, Vecchi, Pioli, Vecchi, this kind of season. So I cannot emphasize that enough.
I don't know. I can buy the argument that, okay, it could kind of bottom can fall off completely. I can buy that, but I'm not seeing like a total Panther era. We have two good players for that. But yeah, there are risks. I agree that. I feel that in the big picture, with the kind of era of oak tree, it feels that this season is already like a, how do you call it, like a mid-season, like a season you don't even expect anything. You just, okay, try to get to top 4, or like, of course that's not try to, you need to get that top 4, because the summer was a bit of a, well, disaster. It was really confusing stuff happening in the summer, and and the ownership wasn't kind of helping there a lot. So in terms of squad building, so it really feels that they don't give a fuck how we're gonna do, as long as we make enough money, which means we make the top 4, which is pretty annoying, of course, for us fans, and which at the same time puts Kivu in a position where it's hard to kind of succeed, because the expectations are in the media and everywhere. Okay, Inter is going to challenge for the Scudetto. They're gonna fight for it till the end. And at the same time, the club is like, okay, whatever, yeah, try to manage to get to top 4, and there's a bit of a conflict there, in my opinion. How about you, Andrew? How do you see it?
Yeah, just make the top 4, man. Like, if you don't qualify for the Champions League, then we're looking at having to sell critical players. Then we're having to look at just a complete. I know you say we're not going to have another banter era, but you just never know. You see how hard it is once a team misses the Champions League to get back into the cycle. It's a really self-fulfilling thing. Like, you really need that money to reinforce the squad, to retain your key players and all that. So just make the top 4 so we don't have to have these conversations. What would be great is if we could I'd be content if we don't win a Scudetto this season. We make the top 4, but we figure out what we have in some of these guys. Like, we need to figure out whether Bonnie can be or Pio can be a striker at this team, whether or not Diouf is actually going to ever be an inter-quality player. Like, we need to figure out what we have in some of these spots. We can't play Mkhitaryan in 38 games. You can't play a Cherby in 38 games. We need to figure out who our building blocks going to be moving forward, because we know there's going to be some major changes next summer, regardless of what causes them, whether it be missing out on the Champions League, whether it be some guys finally retiring, whether it be like Summer riding off into the sunset. And that's why it's time to start getting Martinez some starts, man. We need to see if this guy is going to be our keeper of the future or not. I'd play him against Ajax. If not against Ajax, let's play him against Sassuolo. Let's start giving him some opportunities. We need to figure out who's in, who's out next year. And I know it's September and it's absurd to be making statements like that, but we need to view this as developmental. We have a developmental manager. We have a guy who, if we want Kivu to be here long term, we're going to have to grow with him. And we have to see which players are going to be along for the ride.
Absolutely. I think that's a good as a place to leave the Juve discussion. We're out of time, but let's very, very quickly look ahead to the next fixture, which I think is, did we say it was Ajax midweek?
Yes, on Wednesday.
I mean, traveling away to a team like Ajax is always tricky at the best of times, even when Ajax are not in one of their, kind of high periods of time. I think it's always going to be a tough game, just due to the fact that Ajax, they are one of the biggest clubs, one of the most important clubs in the world. And that comes with a certain level of prestige that they play up to on key occasions. So I think it'll be tough, but let me hear from you guys. How big is the Juve match in terms of influencing this match against Ajax? Are you, I guess, expecting the guys to come out all guns blazing? Do you think Kivu will be licking his wounds from that loss? And do you think the team will be conservative, in addition to the fact that we're traveling away and not wanting to lose, 3 games in a row, not wanting to jeopardize the Champions League campaign? Do you think it'll be cagey because of that? What are we expecting here? Irfan?
I don't know. I kind of feel like this match is not going to have a lasting effect on the team, and I don't think it's going to have an effect for the Champions League. I think kind of like what we talked about. Like, as a fan, this match was frustrating. I'm sure for the players on the pitch it was frustrating, but I think you could pretty quickly get over it because, again, it is Juventus. We were playing away, and I think some of their goals were just such, wonder goal type situations that I don't think that it's going to have some sort of lasting negative effect on the team. I think if anything, the team probably feels like, they did well and they switched off a little bit, but otherwise they could come home with 3 points and they'll probably be pretty happy with the way they fought back after going down. So I'm hoping that it's not going to have much of an effect. I think we'll come out pretty strong against Ajax. I think the club will be ready. I think the Champions League might even be a little bit of a refresher because it's less pressure as of right now than the league is, because we've already lost 2 matches out of 3 in the league. Champions League is kind of a fresh start. It's like a clean slate, and I think the players will be ready, and I think Kivu will be ready, and I don't expect there to be lasting effects from this match. I think we'll go into Ajax, and I think we'll put our best foot forward, and I'm hoping that the result will be good.
I haven't seen Ajax play recently. They were in the Europa League last year, so they weren't necessarily on my radar. I know historically this is always a tough game, like you said, Jay. I kind of view it as when we went to PSV last year. It's an opponent you have respect for because of the name. It's because the environment in Amsterdam is going to be tough. So I can't sit here and tell you anything in great detail about Ajax. I am curious to see how he responds. I want to see rotations in some capacity. I think this would be a great spot to give Pio a start, a spot to give Sucic a start. I'd imagine De Vrij is probably itching for a game. So we need to make some rotations here, especially after the Juve disappointments. And surely Davy Klaassen will score a goal.
Yeah, I noticed he's there now. But I'm actually seeing that Pio wouldn't start this one. He would start against Sassuolo at home. But let's see. I'm definitely expecting some kind of rotation. I don't want to see the same usual starting 11 as always. What Inzaghi did, and now we had against Juve. We need more rotation, and I think the Champions League football is a bit different than the Serie A. There's maybe more space, more speed. So I don't know. Maybe Kivu can try to kind of find his new ways to play, and I don't know. Maybe Diouf will get a chance in this match. Hopefully soon, because I don't know why. I don't know why we wouldn't use him in this match, or Fratesi. Kivu commented on the summer how he's gonna be an important part of the team, but obviously the surgery kind of slowed down his introduction to the team and the games. But he played for Italy in the national team break, so I assume he is fine enough, so he could play. So would be nice to see him get a minutes too. Expecting a win, definitely a win, even if it's a tough ground.
All right. Well, let's finish with a Jay's hot betting tip. I'm gonna give it to PSG 5, Atalanta 0. PSG gonna settle into their natural mode against shit Italian teams that wear black and blue stripes. Juric is also a hack, and it's going to be another bad night for Italian teams on the continent. So,
with the way Atalanta are looking to start this campaign, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
Yeah, that Atalanta project is done. Obviously, my pick is made in jest, but I feel bad for Atalanta. The fact that they should I feel bad for them? I mean, it's done by their own hand, but
I was going to say if I didn't hate them, I'd feel bad for them.
Yeah, it feels like they've just destroyed the whatever era of success they had under Gasperini, obviously culminating in the Europa League. But I think there's a lot of good games on the on match day 1. You've got Juventus, Dortmund, Real Madrid, Marseille. Did no one mention that Pavard scored 20 minutes into his Marseille debut?
Yep. Taremi also scored in his Olympiacos in like the 95th minute or something.
Very good, very good. Then you have Liverpool versus Atleti. You have Napoli against Man City, I think, with De Bruyne homecoming. So a lot of juicy games for match day one. A lot of potential, a lot of money to be made if you follow interjections and tune in for Jay's weekly hot tips. So this time I'm going to give it a big win. PSG over Atalanta, let's say 3-4-0, I think 4-1, something like that. I do think the 5-0 was a joke, but I do think there is quite a big win coming for PSG there. And Bayern Chelsea is another big game. I'm actually going to pick a high-scoring draw, 2-2, 3-3 kind of thing. Obviously, Cole Palmer is going to lead it for the Londoners, and that idiot Nicholas Jackson will probably score an own goal as well for Chelsea.
I was listening back to last week's episode of Interjections, just studying the film, seeing where we could improve, where we could do better. And I was listening to Jay's hot betting tips when I realized somebody made the bold proclamation that if Italy lost to Israel, they were going to shut down the Interjections podcast. And let me tell you, it was a close call, boys. It was a close call.
We're moments away from not existing, but in any instance, let's leave it there for this week. I look forward to seeing you all following another interesting fixture ahead. Hopefully this time we can rebound, get back on the W column. It's been so long, I forgot what it was like to win football games. Mikko, will you see us out?
Forza Inter.
And let's go Bears.
Probably not, dude. Probably not.
Forza Inter indeed, then.
All right.
Come on.